Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of One More Bottle. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing what I consider to be 10 of the best bourbons for a bar. This could be for a beginner bar, or this could just be for any bar in general. I will tell you, these are 10 bourbons that you're going to always find in my bar. Now, this list that I have is actually made up over a lot of research that I've done over the last couple of years, hosting bourbon tasting events and just in general, a lot of my friends and colleagues and stuff that I've introduced bourbon to, and trying to help them to find the love and the passion for bourbon the way that I have it. At a lot of the bourbon tasting events that we do, we have a lot of people that are very new to bourbon. Some of them have never tried bourbon at all. They've only been pretty much, they were Red Bull and vodka kind of people. But they want to figure out how to drink bourbon, and they want to get into that community, and so they come out to the events. And so what I generally try to do at a lot of the bourbon events that we host, and soon I'll do a video showing you exactly how we do it, but one of the things that we do is we try to find bourbons that will meet that beginner and then take them through a progression from maybe a lower proof, or it could be a higher proof, but it could be a bourbon that necessarily doesn't have a lot of burn on it. What I want to do today is I want to help you figure out at least 10 bourbons that you can throw on your shelf, that whether you're new to bourbon or if you've been in the bourbon journey for a while and you're going to have people coming over to your house and you want to introduce them to bourbon, I think that you'll find that these 10 that I'm going to lay out for you today would be 10 great ones to have and a great way to introduce them. First bourbon that we're going to bring out on this list is a bourbon that got me started, and that is Elijah Craig. Elijah Craig, to me, is a great introductory bourbon to a lot of people. At pretty much every bourbon event that I do, I try to at least include Elijah Craig, because I find that even though it is at 94 proof, it doesn't have a lot of ethanol burn. And so when we first give the bourbon to people and they start trying it, I can promise you, if they're new to it, it's going to be hot. And I normally try to get them to go ahead and get a sip, get it out of the way, get the ethanol burn out of the way, and then that way, their next sip, they can start, they're more equipped and prepared for what's coming. What I have found is that I've walked through people through this little bit of a journey, having them to take small little sips, kind of letting it roll around in their mouth a little bit. They can start tasting the brown sugars and the caramels that come out in this particular bourbon. And then we gravitate them to putting it over a little bit of ice, showing them how it changes the flavor profile. And a lot of them pick up and gravitate to Elijah Craig as a bourbon that they definitely end up buying and putting in their particular arsenal that they have within their own home. So if you're like me, this may be exactly where you started. And so for me, I think this is one bourbon that definitely should be in every bar, for not only for you, because I still love to drink Elijah Craig, and one of my favorite is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, and so Elijah Craig to me is a great bourbon with a lot of flavor. The next bourbon that I would definitely think that you should have in your list is going to be Evan Williams Bottle and Bond. Now, at $14 a bottle, this is an absolutely amazing bourbon. This is another bourbon that I have run through my tasting events, and I found out that it was a bourbon that also had high reviews from people that were just very new into bourbon. Now, they did say that it had a little more burn to them because you're going from 94 up to 101 proof. But here's the other reason why I think that you should have Evan Williams into your thing, because you are going to have people that's going to come over to your house that is not as enthusiastic about bourbon the way you are. They're not going to be able to pick out every flavor profile and get the caramels and the nutmegs and the graham crackers and the dark cherries, and they're just not going to get it. They're not going to smell the leather, and they're not going to smell all of the vanilla flavors that is there. But I'll tell you what they do. They like to take something like this and add some ginger ale or some Coke to it. For me, it's ginger ale. I'll take some of this, put it in a glass, throw some ginger ale over the top of it, especially during the summertime, and it's absolutely amazing. And at $14, it does also make a great mixer. But this is a bourbon, I will be honest, it's always on my shelf. And this is also one of my daily drinkers that I go to because I think it's absolutely amazing. It's got great flavors to it. And for the money, you cannot beat it at around a $14 for this $7.50. So that is bottle number 2 that I think that you should have in your bar. Now, the third bottle is something, honestly, for me, years ago, I was I had this stigma in my head about this bourbon, and I never tried it for years and years and years. And finally, I broke down and decided, you know what? I'm going to grab this bottle. I'm going to give it a whirl. And that bottle that I'm talking about is Wild Turkey 101. Now, here's something I will tell you about Wild Turkey 101. We run this in a lot of blinds. And in blind tastings against a variety of bourbons, higher end bourbons, lower end bourbons, this right here takes the cake. People gravitate to it, and it is just something that when I put it in my mouth, it is so much flavor that is in there that it is just absolutely amazing. And from the new person to me who is a bourbon enthusiast, I can promise you this is one of my top bourbons. I will put this bourbon in a blind up against, it doesn't matter. I'll put it against Eagle Rare. I'll put it up against E.H. Taylor. I'll put it in the list with a lot of them. And I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of people that this will be one of the top of their bourbons. So this definitely, $22 for a $7.50. You need to have this bottle in your arsenal. It's going to be something that your friends will thank you for introducing them to it. Now, the next bourbon that I think that you should have in there, also in the beginning of my bourbon journey, this one is one that I absolutely fell in love with, and that is Knob Creek 9 Year. Now, I'll be honest, when I first started in my bourbon journey, I was not drinking this neat. I didn't even really drink this over a big cube. What I fell in love with Knob Creek is I personally believe that Knob Creek number 9 is one of the best bourbons to make an old-fashioned with. If I'm making an old-fashioned, it will be this. But not only that, it is an amazing pour. This is something that is definitely should be. And if you've never had an old-fashioned with Knob Creek number 9 Year, you need to absolutely give it a whirl and try it out. It is an absolutely delicious bourbon, something that you should have on your list. And it is a easy sipper and also gets great reviews when we run this in our bourbon tasting event. From newcomers all the way up. At 100 proof, it doesn't drink that away. It is actually a very easy drinker. So Knob Creek, you need to put it on your list. Next bourbon that I'm going to put in here that I think that you should have on in your bar, absolutely this particular one right here, I'm going to tell you right now, is hands down one of my favorite bourbons right now. And as through my journey, your palate is going to change. You're going to find that you like higher proof stuff, more so, but still yet some of the lower proof stuff just is right there. And this is a bourbon you cannot go wrong with, and you need to introduce all your friends to it. If you have not tried it yet, Russell's 10 Year. One of the reasons I think that you should put this in there is because you are getting a bourbon that has a great age statement on it of 10 years. But what you're also getting is a bourbon that is low price. This is a low $30 bottle of bourbon, and it is a 10-year bourbon that absolutely is delicious and tastes amazing and is something that you're going to enjoy. So Russell's 10 is a bottle you definitely cannot go wrong with, and it will surprise you. You put it up in a blind, and it is going to be one of the ones that's going to be at the top of most of the blinds that you're going to do. So that is another bottle that you should definitely have in your arsenal. Now, the next bottle is no surprise to anybody. I think that pretty much everybody out there would agree. Buffalo Trace is definitely a bottle that you should have in your bar. I know that in some areas it's a little bit harder to find. Actually, out here in Texas, it is a little bit harder to find, but it is one of the easier allocated bottles. And I get comments all the time like, is Buffalo Trace allocated? Because there's people that live in other states that they can find this on the shelves all the time. But I will tell you, if you can buy this for retail, even a little bit above retail, this is definitely a bottle that you should have. This Buffalo Trace goes without, it's just an absolute good bottle. Great pour. You can't go wrong with it. And so you want to make sure that you're grabbing a bottle of this to put in your bar. Not only that, it's Tatanka. It's something that everybody's going to love. If you don't know what Tatanka is, you got to watch a movie. You'll figure it out. Dancing with Wolves, Tatanka. Buffalo. So it's something that is actually pretty cool. Great bottle. Delicious bottle. And you need to be putting this also into your bar. The next bottle that we're going to bring out into this bar is, my next one would be 1792. I think that 1792 is it is an amazing bottle. But one of the things that I would tell you, we've run this in some blinds, and when we run it in blind tests, a lot of times when you put it up against some of the other bourbons, I find that it's a little bit further down in the list. But Singling this bottle out, I go through a lot of 1792. Actually, we even buy the 1.75s of this. This is something that we drink quite often here around the house. It's also a bourbon that I would definitely introduce to someone who is just kind of new into their bourbon journey. You're talking, you know, a low proof bourbon. It's just over about 92, 93 proof. It's something that does not have a lot of burn. It's got a lot of sweet flavors in it. And for people that are new into the bourbon journey, the sweeter flavors is going to be something that they will gravitate to a little bit easier. It's going to be have a flavor profile that's going to be a little sweeter. And if you put it on ice, it's going to still have some of that sweetness to it, kill out some of that burn as well. So 1792, definitely want that into your list. Now this next one is one of, I mean, I always say one of my favorite. I mean, the truth is I think I have a lot of favorites, but this bourbon right here, definitely, you've got to have this in your cabinet. Rare Breed, hands down, one of Wild Turkey's finest bourbons to me, has such an explosion of flavors when you drink this. At mid $40 here in our area, $45 to $48, this is an absolute great bottle. Now, I know I get in the comments that some of you, it's hard for y'all to find Rare Breed, and I don't know what states you live in, but here in Texas, we can pretty much walk in any of our package stores and you can find this on the shelf. It's always in stock. For 40-some dollars, I mean, this particular bottle here is 116.8 proof, and it does not drink that. In a recent blind we did, we thought some of the lower proof ones had more ethanol burn than this did, and this, I mean, it stands for its own. And Rare Breed is definitely something, it's rare. It's amazing. It's got so much flavor to it that when you sip on this, it will blow your mind if you've not tried it yet. This is something that, I mean, at 40-some dollars, still not overpriced. I think, honestly, this drinks like a $70, $80 bottle based on some of the stuff that I've spent money on. But this right here, definitely want this in your arsenal. Now that's 8 of the bottles. Now the next 2 bottles, I just decided, you know, that's 8 essential bottles that I think everybody should have. The next 2 is, I have some alternatives because mine has changed based on my palate changing through my bourbon journey. And so the next couple ones is going to be solely on me. Now, I'm going to give you 2 that most of you would be like, oh yeah, those need to be in there. But then what I'm going to do is show you the actual 2 that I'm going to recommend for you. Realistically, if you can find E.H. Taylor, this is the small batch. We can buy this here. It doesn't always show up on the shelves, but it's one of the ones that we can get our hands on. And I have multiple bottles of this. And when we do, this is a upper $40 bottle of bourbon if you're not paying secondary market on it. And it is absolutely delicious. As you can see, this bottle is even about halfway down. So I would put this in the top 10 of these 10 best bourbons to have on your list. This is a great bourbon, doesn't have a lot of burn, and so this would be one of the ones that I would also do. Now, without, you know, if you can find this, I mean, obviously Eagle Rare, if you can find it, it's a great bourbon, and there's a lot of you that if I didn't include this, I would be getting slammed in the comments that, why didn't you include Eagle Rare? It should have been there. But the truth of it is, here in Texas, this is almost hard to find. If you do find it, it is going to be way overpriced unless you just happen to time it exactly in some of our stores that do just sell for retail, but you have to be there right time the truck's unloading or you're not going to get it. This is something even here, and I'm out hunting a lot, and I don't see this bottle often. So for me, that's why I would not include this in these 10. But if you live in an area that you can find this on the shelves all the time, definitely put it inside of your 10 bourbons. Now, here is the 2 that maybe you've tried them, maybe you haven't, but I'm throwing these in my 10 because these, when I first tried these bourbons, they blew me away. I mean, absolutely blew me away. Bought both of these bourbons on the same day we brought them home, was excited to pop the tops on them. And when we did, April and I were just like, looked at each other because there was so much flavor in them. And the first bourbon that would be number 9 in my list of these would be Penelope Toasted. If you have not tried any of the Penelope bourbons, you are missing out. They are absolutely great bourbons. And this Toasted, barrel edition right here. This is 112 proof. There is so many flavors running around going when you put it. I mean, like when you take a pour on this and you take that first sip, you know that this is a great, great, great bourbon. I shared this with one of my friends that came over, and his eyes got big and he just kind of looked at me like, what is this? And when I showed him what it was, he had never tried it before, but immediately knew that this was something that he fell in love with. And we can pick this up in between $60 and $70 here in our area. Penelope Toasted, you need to put this in your cabinet. Now, the last one that I'm going to put in here is actually I just recently started drinking more of these. But this right here, barrel bourbon. If you've not had any of the barrel bourbons, again, you're missing out. This is actually batch 33. This is pretty much a 5-year age statement on this one. And this one is 116.6 proof. And this is an absolutely delicious bottle. Again, same way like with the Penelope. This has so much flavor in it, from the sweetnesses, and I mean, it's just like stuff is moving around, and I don't even know how to describe how amazing this bottle is. And so if you ask me, hey Chris, what is 10 bottles that I could buy right now, and if you price all of these out, this is the 10 bottles that I gave you are under $400. And when I walk into a liquor store and people are looking around, just right over the Christmas holidays, I was there. There was a lady, she kept picking up bottles. She's like, I'm just trying to find a really good bottle for someone who's they like bourbon, but I don't know what to buy. I recommended them to buy this right here because from the first time that I tried it, being a bourbon lover, this impressed me a lot. And so this is something that I would put in there. So I would like to know in the comments what you think about these 10 that we selected. If you have these 10 in your arsenal, or if the first 8 that we showed you, this is it. What would be the last 2 that you would put in there to round out this 10? I think that would be a great comment, because I think most of you would agree that the first 8 that we showed, hands down, some of the best bourbon that you can have for beginners to bourbon enthusiasts. But what would your last 2 bourbons be in that list? All right, until next time, we're going to be out chasing down one more bottle. We'll see you guys later.